Welcome, everybody. My name is Philip Lynch. I'm the Director of Special Education Services for Montgomery County Public Schools. And I'm going to allow Mr. Mejia to share information about Spanish interpretation with you first.
Sí, bueno, muy buenas noches. Soy el señor Philip Lynch, director del Departamento de Servicios de Educación Especial. Por si acaso, los que quieran tener esta conferencia, escucharla en español, al pie de la pantalla va a aparecer un icono de un globo terrestre que ustedes pueden presionar y escoger la opción español. Si quieren escuchar esta conferencia en español. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Mr. Mejia. So again, I'm Philip Lynch, the Director of Special Education Services. We're going to take a few minutes to introduce folks before we get started. And first, I'd like for our SECAC co-chairs to introduce themselves. So why don't we start with Miss Amy Bloom.
Thank you all for coming. I'm Amy Bloom. I think most of you know me, but for those who don't, we have two boys, one at Bethesda Elementary and one who just started Westland this year. And our Westland student is in special education. So we've been sort of getting used to and navigating a new system with that. We're glad everyone's here, and I'm going to be presenting a little later, so I'll be quiet for now and pass it on to Connie to introduce herself.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Amy. I am delighted to be with all of you tonight. If you are new to SECAC, if this is your first time joining us, welcome. Feel free to put in the chat your name and where you're from, and make sure to say hi. We'll share our contact information in our presentation. I'm looking forward to providing some information about SECAC. Happy Disability Book Week. If you have a book that you would like to recommend, also please put it in the chat. Representation matters. I've been on SECAC, part of SECAC, since my son was 3.5 years old. He's in the spectrum and he's in the Asperger's Connecting program. And I also have a daughter that is currently in 2nd grade in general ed. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, co-chairs. And a little later, I'll be talking a little bit about the process along with our co-chairs for the nomination of a new parent co-chair. So we're going to talk through what the criteria looks like. Our co-chairs are going to have an opportunity to share their experience and some information about what the job entails. And then we'll talk about the process that we're going to implement in order to add a new co-chair. It's very timely information. We had one of our co-chairs who has stepped off the committee and shared that information with me today. So Ms. Victoria Aiello is going to be resigning her post. And so it's very timely that we are talking about this process. And I think that she did that intentionally for us to be able to share information tonight so that we could get as much interest as we can. And in the next and last SECAC meeting, we'll have an opportunity to share information about the voting process for adding a SECAC parent co-chair to the process. But between now and the last meeting, I'm going to share with you a process that will involve the nominations for parents who are interested. So you'll hear more about that this evening from me and from the co-chairs. We are so grateful and thankful for Victoria's contributions. She has worked very hard as a SECAC parent co-chair for over 5 years, pretty much throughout the course of her daughter's elementary experience. Her daughter's now in middle school. And so I can't thank her enough for her contributions to the committee. She represented us at the state level. She represented us on a variety of different committees within MCPS. And so we are extremely thankful for her presentation, or her contributions. We do have, to Amy's point, we do have some folks who are present here in person, and I want to thank them for being here in person. This is our first experiment with a hybrid meeting. I want to thank Derek Ritzenberg, who most of you know from behind the scenes, who helps us with all of our technology. And so Derek is here and he helped us set up the camera and the computers and get this this experiment rolling. And so it's just, you know, the way the world is working now. We want to try to create as much flexibility for parents as possible. And we want to create a situation where we can break down any barriers for folks getting the information they need. And, we want to make sure that we're eliminating barriers that have to do with childcare, any of those types of things. So whatever we can do to try to maximize participation and get the information out to families in any way you can. Some folks may be looking for a break from their children and want to come to the in-person session. So that's valid too. So thank you for being here in person, and thank you for being present to us virtually as well. I'm going to go through the agenda first, but let me also introduce, and you guys, if you have your cameras on, you can come off camera and just introduce yourselves. So Amy, do you want to take a moment to just say hello to the group? So we have
hello to everybody on virtually and here. Thank you all for being here. It's very nice to be back in this room with some parents. I'm Amy Cropp, I'm Director of Pre-K Special Programs and Related Services in the Office of Special Education.
There we go. And you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Good afternoon. Good
Oh, you're doing the
evening.
computer? Gotcha.
Thanks. Lisa Cordy. I'm the instructional specialist for the SECS program.
Hi, I'm Virginia Twombly. I am the program specialist for the enhanced SESCS program at Magruder High School.
Okay. And I am going to ask one of our supervisors who is here with us, an acting supervisor, because she is acting in a role that is a new role for her, so she can introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Sarah Cayo, and I'm the acting special education supervisor for the Churchill, Richard Montgomery, Wooten, and Wheaton clusters.
All right, thank you, folks. So on to the agenda. We've done the introductions, and we're going to move into our typical updates. I do see one of our friends from the rec department here in person with us. So Sharon will share any updates that she has with us. And Sharon, what I'll do is give you the mic, and you can just talk. Derek can put you on camera, okay? So we'll do our updates. We'll hear also from Mary Beth Matsuranis. We have a final plug for our this Saturday at Gaithersburg High School, our resource fair. She'll talk a little about that. And then we will move on to the discussion about the SECAC co-chair nomination process, where you hear from me, you hear from Connie and Amy. And then we have our primary presenters, which is going to be Virginia and Lisa, sharing information about addressing the needs of students who are experiencing challenges with anxiety. So I've looked at that presentation, and I've said it a couple times, but I think every year we've done a better job of making sure that we're presenting information that is both timely, relevant, and engaging. And so I'm really proud of the presentations we've done this year, and I think that this presentation this evening is going to live up to that. Another final plug is for our, I need to be changing the slides here, is for our parent survey.
Bill, sorry to interrupt, Connie here. I just want to clarify that you are showing in two screens. There's you're showing, there's a video, live video from MCPS if anybody wants to see you and everybody present there. And the other one is just for your voice, I think, under your name. Some people that were like, oh, he's not turning his camera on.
Oh, you can't see me. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, technically I can see you under MCPS. I was just wondering if Derek maybe can spotlight you for everybody to see you.
Okay, he's going to work
You
on
look
the
super far away for us.
Yeah.
I
Or like
probably am.
spotlight you so you're all the way in the top for everybody
He's
to see
gonna
you.
zoom in
Sorry
on
to
you. All right,
interrupt.
that's good. This is good feedback. Good feedback, production crew. All right, thank you, production crew. All right, so focusing on the slide for a moment, there is an information up on the slide deck that has to do with the parent survey. We are in really dire straits in terms of our participation rate for our parent survey. We've had up and down years in terms of our participation rates. The state of Maryland gets these results, so they give us monthly feedback on the percentage of parents who have completed the survey. I think the last check was around 6% of families K to 12, a little higher, around 8 or so for pre-K, but that's pretty abysmal. So we want to make sure that we are getting feedback from as many parents as possible. So we sent out a Connect Ed message, both a phone call that you should have received and followed up with an email, so you could click on that link. If you are like me and you don't have time to go through all of your personal emails because you're swamped with your work emails, take a moment, go through your emails, look for the email from MCPS, click on the link that has to do with the parent survey, and take a few minutes to do that survey for us. And then I want you to find 2 friends and convince them to do it also. So we really need to get those numbers moved up. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mary Beth. I think she's online. I can't see everybody, so I'm just guessing and hoping that Mary Beth is there. And
I'm here.
she can talk a little bit. There you are, Mary Beth. If you could share a little bit about the fair on Saturday, that'd be great.
Sure. Hi, everybody. It's good to see you. Again, I'm Mary Beth Mansuranis, and I am the Family Support Services Coordinator. And actually, one of the things I was going to talk about was the MSDE survey, which Phil just took care of. But I will tell you that on Saturday, we'll have MCPS staff and we'll have Chromebooks there. So any of you who come out and who need support in filling out the survey, we are happy to do so to help you with it. So, you know, our goal is to up our numbers because the response rate is important, obviously, but really what's important is the feedback from families about what they need. And it also helps the state to know what MCPS needs. So we do have the link there too. Thanks, Connie. So the second thing I want to talk about, I really want to push this message home. We are having our special education resource fair on Saturday at Gaithersburg High School. It's from 9 until 12. I am spending a lot of time sending positive messages to Mother Nature and all powers that be for some beautiful weather. And honestly, I'll take overcast. I don't even need beautiful. I'll be honest. I just don't need rain. However, we have a plan because if it rains, we will be inside. So don't worry. The fair is happening regardless. It's going to be rain or shine. We have so many wonderful organizations that are coming out. We have ArtStream, we have EveryMind, we have X-Minds, we have Learning Disabilities Association of Maryland, we have Maryland Able. We have just, I think it's like 25 different organizations that really, their goal is to provide resources and support to families, which we know from the survey results in the past is really something families are looking for. It won't answer every question, but it is a great opportunity for us to get together to hear from people about what they need. So we have all of those. We also have Dr. Joy Banks, who will be doing, she'll speak at 2 different times. I believe it's 9:30 and 11. And she's really going to just, we're going to keep it short because we know many people are bringing their children and there isn't childcare. So she's just going to be talking about how we're supporting children, like the diverse needs of students through that lens of equity. She is a professor at, I think it's George Mason, and she's had lots and lots of experiences. So we're looking forward to what she's going to bring to the table for us. And then obviously to keep all the kids happy, we have a moon bounce, we have a gaga pit, we have face painting, we have a tattoo artist, we have a balloon, an animal balloon maker or balloon animal, that would make more sense. We have a DJ, we have a petting zoo, and it's hopefully it's just going to meet everybody's needs. We also have, you know, some space for any of our friends who just are going to need some quiet time, like an area to sort of move away from people. If we're outside, there's plenty of space there. And if we're inside, we'll have, you know, areas where you can take your child who may need a few minutes. We will also have some food trucks there. Those food trucks will be for families to purchase food. That's unfortunately not a gift we can give you, but there will be trucks there. So I hope that everybody comes out. We do have some little gifts to give out, but when they're gone, they're gone. So, you know, for those of you who get there, come to the welcome table to register, and we will send you on your way with a map. And while we still have gifts to give away, you will certainly receive them. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Mary Beth. We're so blessed to have you as a part of our team this year. As most of you have heard me say, you know, Mary Beth will be with us this year, and I am working on getting her position for the replacement of her position, because she came to us as a retired principal, up and rolling. So that will be in process, but we will have somebody in that role for the future. So Sharon, if you want to come up, and I will give you the mic and you could say a few words in terms of updates. If you want to stand right here, so you're not so far, Derek will adjust the camera and I will clip this on to you so folks can hear you. Okay. All right. You are on.
All right, thank you. Hi, I'm Sharon Norcio and I work with Montgomery County Department of Recreation. My heart is on therapeutic recreation, so we do programs for people with disabilities. And we are really excited to partner with Montgomery County Public Schools on some of our adventures. So this Saturday, we will also be at the resource fair, and we have a table. We do also have some giveaways. We're bringing the Gaga pit. So weather permitting, we'll be able to have some fun, safe play for everybody. And then Sunday at Wheaton Regional from 11 to 2, we have our Shine Brighter event, which was rescheduled due to weather. So we have a lot of stuff that's partnered with parks and some of the other local recreation agencies. So we'll have the police canines are coming. The autism unit is coming from Montgomery County Police. Park horses are coming. And then we also have face painters and chalk challenge. And we're really excited this year because we're launching a buddy bench system in the bench in the park system. So the buddy benches are benches where they'll have the opportunity to sign the buddy pledge saying, you know, if I need a friend, I'll go sit on the bench. And if I want to be a friend, I can find somebody on the bench to play with. And people will have the opportunity to sign the pledge and then help decorate the benches. After the event, those benches will be placed in Wheaton Regional Park permanently. And we're looking to do those so that the kids have places to play and to connect in a way that's safe and comfortable for folks. We also have summer camp registrations that are ongoing. We just spoke to some folks with MCPS yesterday. All of our programs were bumped out of Wood. It's a good thing that MCPS has a lot of ESY. The ESY bumped us out. So we are now going to be over at Glen Allen. So all the therapeutic recreation camps, except for the 2 that are pool-based, are going to be at Glen Allen. So we have elementary, middle, and high school ages that will be having, we have full and half day programs. So if your child is going to an ESY setting during the month of July, they can sign up for a camp that goes in the afternoon. And those camps will go, I believe, 12:30 to 5:30. They used to be 12 o'clock, but because ESY is going a little longer, we did bump them a little bit this year. And then the other thing a lot of parents ask about, when is summer registration for other things like swim lessons? And May 16th at 6:30 a.m. is when swim lesson registration begins. So we have lots of stuff going on. Right now we are planning for fall. We're usually in a 6-month planning cycle. So we are planning things for fall as well, but we have a lot of stuff going on. We also have a big family swim party and that is on Mother's Day. And all these things are on the website. If you just Google Montgomery County Recreation, and then they will, if you look at events and things, they will come up on there. I can also, when I get back to my table over here, I can also put the link in there. Also, Connie, the co-chair, put the link for the survey in there. So for anybody who's online, after the meeting, you could just click the link and go ahead and do the survey tonight if you want to. You don't have to wait. You can do it tonight. The link is right in there, really, really easy to get on and go ahead and do that. So I'll put our link in there. And if you have any questions, you know, you can, I'll be on the chat all evening, or you're welcome to reach out to me afterwards if you have specific questions about recreation. I'd be happy to be able to connect you with either your local agency or answer any questions you may have. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think I'm going to operate from here, Derek, because I think it's not so far away. So, and our presenters later, if you guys want to operate from this table, you're welcome to stay there, but you can always. Yep. All right. Again, we're making adjustments on the fly here. All right. So I'm going to take us to our next topic. And so this is information about how to become a SECAC co-chair. I have been working with a lovely group of 3 parent co-chairs for the last 3 years with the same group. As I mentioned, Victoria has been a part of the group for longer. She was our veteran. And so she is stepping down. And she also wanted me to share that she is happy to communicate with anybody who has questions. If you want to go directly to her for information, she is open to be a contact person, as are our 2 current co-chairs. If you have any additional questions and want to speak to somebody privately because you're maybe contemplating throwing your hat in the ring as a co-chair. So some basic information there underneath the title of our slide, where it says that In order to be a co-chair, our bylaws have a few stipulations. So one is that you are a current parent or guardian of an MCPS student who is receiving special education services. So we have an interesting structure in Montgomery County for our Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee. And when I say interesting, I mean, it's just it can be a little different than what I see in some other school districts. Some other school districts, if you don't know, have a more closed structure where they might say that we're going to have 30 or 40 parents be a part of the committee, of the advisory committee. And while they may do parent information nights or functions like this, they have a closed group that is a part of the committee. And then in addition to the closed group, they also have what they call their executive group. Okay. So we have an executive group, which is myself, Amy, the parent co-chairs, and Diana Wiles is our associate. That is our executive group, right? And so that's the group that might make decisions around what presentations to bring forward, decisions around changes to the bylaws. If we do get a small grant funding for materials and whatnot, how to make sure that we're using the funding appropriately. We typically use it for our flyers, to print our flyers to get out to schools and whatnot. So there's some decision making that happens with our executive group. But here in Montgomery County, we call our members anybody who comes to our meeting. So you guys are all SECAC members as long as you show up and participate. And in order to be a voting member, we ask that people participate in at least 2 SECAC meetings. Okay. So if you've attended 2 SECAC meetings and you are considered to be a voting member of the group who can provide input in terms of who the parent co-chairs are. Okay. And we do have a way of knowing who has been logging on to the Zoom sessions. And in the past, when we had in-person meetings, we had folks do a sign-in. So maybe I'll ask Amy to do a quick sign-in sheet for us for people who are here, because I did not even think about that. I didn't go back to that old school method. So maybe Amy will help me with that so I can capture who's in person. But that's the process for being a SECAC member in MCPS. You just need to come to these sessions. And we like the fact, and we hope you do too, that it is open to everybody. Okay. And that everybody can come at any time on the 4th Thursday of every month to receive the information and be considered a member. In order to be an executive co-chair, a parent co-chair, again, you have to have a student who's currently receiving services. And we ask folks to commit to a 3-year term. And that's because we prefer not to have turnover every year. We'd like to have some consistency. And some years it's harder to find people who are willing to commit. So we'd like to have a 3-year commitment. That doesn't mean we're going to come after you if you can't commit to 3 years and you have to drop off after 2, but we would like people who are thinking about it to think about it in the 3-year sense. Okay. We also want folks to understand that we have a 6-year maximum term, because we want to try to have new ideas, new blood, new folks come in. And we know that after being on the committee for 6 years, which could be roughly half your students' educational experience, that, it might be time for us to give somebody else an opportunity to jump in on that group. So we find ourselves at that place now, and we were going to move forward with this process and add somebody, even regardless of Victoria's stepping off the committee, but that just so happens to be the case. And so we are really glad to be able to share this opportunity with you all. So in terms of folks we are looking for, we ask that it be folks who are empathetic to families and students with disabilities, somebody who can be diplomatic in the sense that you need to see other people's positions and sides on issues, resourceful in terms of guiding parents to resources. So hopefully you have a knowledge of the resources that we have available in MCPS to parents and families with disabilities. And we also hope that you are engaged in sharing those resources with others. You would act as a liaison for those families between MCPS and the community stakeholders. We ask that folks attend these monthly meetings so that you can not only participate. There may be times when the co-chairs would be presenting, as is the case tonight. And we also want you to be present to the families. We've come up with this process for co-chairs to currently be in the Zoom room where if parents want to share something with them, provide input, then that's one of your opportunities to do that and to be present to parents through email and phone calls. One of the key components of having that co-chair group is that they provide us in MCPS stakeholder input around any issues that might have to do with initiatives that we're taking on, budgetary issues. And so we ask for that feedback to come through you all to the co-chairs, and then they represent you. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to, I think Connie is going to take the next slide. Yes. And talk a little about some of the expectations that have to do with the types of meetings that you would attend as a co-chair.
Thank you so much, Phil. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Hello again. Phil, thank you for giving us time to talk to the community about SECAC and all the roles, the responsibility that comes along with being part of the committee, and to explain a little more about our roles and responsibilities. So thank you. I was laughing a little bit because you mentioned at the beginning of the meeting how sometimes we see SECAC meetings as part of like self-care or like getting away from our family. So I totally feel like that, and I can relate, I see it as a self-care. I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting how I have been attending since my son was 3.5 years old, and I have learned so much. Every meeting that I attend, I feel like I learned something new. And I'm sorry that we don't have any pictures in our presentation. Amy and I started at the beginning, around the same time. I think I started before Amy. But I'm from that time where we didn't used to have phones, and we didn't used to take selfies. We used to just, attend the in-person sessions and for SECAC, and then hang out outside in the parking lot with other parents and just connecting with each other. And we established wonderful friendships from there. And we were able to connect with each other and learn about different topics of interest, or what can we do more? What can we do better? How can we advise MCPS about different programs in the community? So like Phil mentioned, just attending monthly SECAC meetings is one of the responsibilities. Our meeting starts in October, right after when the school starts, and all the way until May. So if you're new, we only have one more meeting, and then we don't meet over the summer. It's a volunteer position. It's not a paid position. And we still, as co-chairs, we meet with MCPS Special Education Department during the summer to prepare for our next school year. We do receive public comment, or what we used to call it public testimony, once in a while. We always want to encourage families to reach out to us by email, by phone, and share if they want to share about their experiences, or if they have any concerns, that we can share it ahead of time with the director of special education, Phil, and the coordinator of special education. We host breakout sessions that most of you have been part of every month, where we kind of have a motto of like, what happens in SECAC stays in SECAC. It's not recorded, so you're free to share as much or as little as you want. And it's a way, again, to support each other as parents. And we also receive like emails or texts about any topics of interest. If you want to learn more about a specific program or something that you're not quite familiar with special education, please let us know. But it's a way of, communicating and helping and providing that feedback in developing the agenda for our monthly meetings. And also, in a way, sorry, I just had a thought and I got distracted with the chat. But in a way, it's just to provide feedback or anything in general. Amy, please correct me if I'm missing anything.
No, it sounds great. And I think, what we're going to do now is just sort of go over, almost like a list of the roles and responsibilities. And then we'll share some of our experiences, and then we can, I think if we have time, take some questions about the role, if that's good for everyone.
So if you guys want to go through those bullets, that would be great.
Okay. I think we're.
Yeah, I cover mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so another big part of what we do is act as a liaison, and this is actually sort of my favorite part of things. So we receive and reply to parent and community feedback and concerns via email and also at meetings. We collect the feedback for the Office of Special Education regarding parent engagement, services to students, and many other concerns. We act as a liaison between MCPS staff and parent and community organizations. And again, we help families advocate for their students and connect with MCPS and community resources. I think I can take the next slide if you guys want. Okay. So we also have stakeholder input and feedback. And I should say that, when we talk about being a stakeholder, it's really basically just making sure that the viewpoint and perspective of special education families are represented. So if that makes sense, because I know sometimes some of the language we use can sound more complicated than it needs to. So with that said, we provide input on the structure and organization of SECAC based on community input. At one point during COVID, we really worked to restructure our meetings to make sure that everyone felt comfortable and that their voices could be heard. We provide stakeholder feedback for MCPS, including requests for proposal review sessions, budget priority feedback, and various focus and planning groups. We participate on interview panels for positions in the Office of Special Education. We represent MCPS at Maryland State Department of Education SECAC meetings, and we respond to requests for input from Maryland State Department of Education.
So we have a slide here, and I think most of you know this, that we do share these presentations with you all by putting it on the website. What I will do as well, though, is I will send out a message with this information, because this slide is very important. It has both a QR code and a link to the nomination interest form that we put forward. And if you are interested in putting yourself forward, you would want to complete this interest form. There's no obligation. We will engage in a discussion with you. But if you're interested and you're thinking about it, you can complete the form. We would ask that if after we connect with you, and I say we, I mean the co-chairs and I, one of us will reach out to you and let you know that we've reviewed your interest form and let you know whether you meet the criteria that we put forward to be considered as a possible candidate. But one of the things that we'll ask is if you meet that criteria at the next SECAC meeting, which is our May meeting. I think that meeting is May 20. It's on the agenda. 27th. Okay, it's the fourth Thursday in May. I know that for sure. And on what is it? 25th, May 25th. So May 25th is our final meeting. At that meeting, you would want to be prepared to make some brief remarks about why you're interested in being a co-chair, and talk a little about yourself so that parents have an idea of who you are and what you would bring to the position before they would make their votes. And you can see also there a list of folks that you can contact by email if you are interested. You'll notice that one of the people there who's not with us tonight is Stacy Heinze. She is the former assistant principal of Bethesda Elementary School, a longtime assistant principal of Bethesda Elementary School, where they have a wonderful special education program and services. She is now my new coordinator. So she has taken Jen Strobel's position. She would be here with us this evening, but the parent community at Bethesda Elementary wanted one last chance to say goodbye to her this evening. Amy, I don't know if you were involved with that at all, but they are saying goodbye to her this evening. And so She's had all kinds of goodbye parties because she had a 20-year relationship with Bethesda Elementary. So that's a long time to commit to one school, and they are really sad to see her go. And I'm really happy to see her join us. So, so no apologies there. So we're lucky to have her, but she started this week, and so she's somebody who can also help answer questions. Derek, are you able to click on the interest form so we could just take a quick look at it?
In the meantime, what Derek does that, I just wanted to add, if you have any questions or if you need any additional information or need feedback or just want to share your story or anything like that with us, Amy and I are more than happy to talk to you or schedule some time to chat with you on the phone or schedule a brief Zoom meeting. So feel free to reach out to us. And one of the things that I forgot to say at the beginning that I struggle with my part of the presentation is like, I really want to highlight that one of the things that we did this year is also invite other nonprofits to be part of SECAC, and so the community can learn more about these organizations. So if you have connections, if you like to network, you're more than welcome to apply. Thank you, Phil.
All right, so Derek's going to click on that form, and you can see that it's going to ask you for some basic information. So if you could roll down, Derek, so for your email, your name, and some contact information, the school that your child goes to, their grade, and then just you can give some brief statement about some experiences you've had providing information about special education involvement and advocacy, a statement of interest. So why are you interested in this position, and how you would feel you would best be able to assist as a parent co-chair, and if there's any other skills that you feel like you would be bringing to the table. Some folks bring some special skills from their work world, whether they be available to meet at least once a month outside of the SECAC meeting. So we don't meet every month, but I would like folks to be available to meet with me and the MCPS co-chairs at least once a month. Outside of that, we do that in a variety of ways. I met with the co-chairs this week or last week by phone. We just did a phone conference, so it doesn't have to be onerous. And then if you're comfortable making remarks to the group for 2 to 3 minutes at the May 25th meeting, that would be great. So that's the interest survey or form. And so if you're interested, go ahead and do that. You can do it on a whim, and then when we contact you, you're welcome to back out if you have a change of heart. But we would love to get a couple of folks interested so that we can make that selection this year, and then move forward with what is also in our bylaws, which is that we are also supposed to have at least 3 parent co-chairs. So right now we're down a co-chair, and so we would want to bring somebody on as soon as possible, especially to start with our planning for next year. Connie and Amy, do you have any other last remarks on that front?
Did you want us to share a little about our own experience?
Yes, I did.
You did, okay. I also real quick wanted to know if can we put a link to the nomination form in the chat?
We can put it in the chat. We can
Okay.
absolutely do that.
Thank
And it will be, I will send it out through the SECAC distribution list as well, but that's a great idea. So Derek, you can work on that. So when Derek is available, he will put that in the chat, or able
Thank
to.
you.
He'll put that
And
in the
maybe we
chat,
could
but
put
why
it-
don't you all say a little bit about I think you were talking about your personal experiences.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. So this is, I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely a big commitment. But that said, I personally feel like I have really gained so much from the position, and it's given me a sense of community. It's helped me view things through a broader lens, and with a greater purpose than, outside of my own kids and my own school. It's given me the opportunity to connect with families from other neighborhoods. I've learned a lot about how, the system works, which is really helpful in working toward realistic goals for change. It's given me a chance to be a leader. And I should say also part of a group of leaders who refreshingly are not overly, A-type or alpha. I don't mean to pass judgment, but I know we've all joined committees, where we may have been a little overwhelmed by that. And I've personally really enjoyed representing the community and being asked to be a part of different focus groups and interview panels. And it's been, also humbling in a school district that's so big to be able to be one of the people who's charged with advocating for the community. I should also say that I have taught ESOL in the past, and I've also done a little writing about inequity in education. So I'm also sort of at home in this role, but I would definitely encourage anyone who has that sort of in them to definitely come and join us.
I concur with you, Amy. Just to add up, I do feel, that I have learned so much since the beginning of me showing up to the first meeting and having my first meeting as a co-chair. We are very, very honored to represent all of you, to all the families in special education, and to all the individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. As I'm Hispanic, so English is not my first language. So I always thought it would be challenging, but it has empowered me to, being part of SECAC, it has empowered me to be a great advocate, to take me through this advocacy journey where I am today. So I'm very passionate and I'm very, very grateful for this opportunity. And I want to encourage you to apply. I want to encourage you to take a chance and to continue to advocate for others. Thank you.
Thank you both for sharing both kind of the duties involved, but also, some information from your personal experiences. So we really appreciate that. And I too hope that folks will join in. They mentioned that they participate in interview panels. And sometimes they're not available to participate in interview panels because, they have their own commitments, and we have a lot of interview panels taking place now. We have some new positions that are going to be coming up. We had one of our special education supervisors who has moved on to become a director of Washington County special education, Dr. Melissa Brunson, who I'm really proud that I have two of my supervisors who have moved on to be other directors in the state. So we have one of my former directors, Dr. Tia McKinnon, who's the director at Charles County, and now we have Dr. Brunson, who's the director in Washington County. And so I think it's great for us and feels great for me as a leader to be fostering folks who are going on to become other directors across the state. So I'm really proud of that, but that means that we need to hire another supervisor. And so that process is going to be coming up soon. And Amy and Connie, they are available to help out with a lot of things, but I say this out loud because I might be asking one of you all to help out with to be on a parent co-chair to be a parent member of a panel, interview panel as well, because we are committed to making sure we have parent representation for those important positions. So I may connect with folks on that as well beyond our co-chairs. So that said, we're going to go to the main event. And I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful presenters who have been waiting patiently. I'm going to get this chair out of your all's way, and you're going to step right up here and you can present from there, and Derek will get the camera on you. You can use the clicker here. And it may work where we do it like that. We'll see. If folks can't hear them, then they will hold the mic, but we're going to try it like this.
Excellent. I suspect you'll be able to hear us just fine because we're standing right next to each other.
Let's hope. Want to introduce ourselves again. I am Lisa Cordy. I am the instructional specialist for the social emotional special education services here for MCPS.
And I am Virginia Twombly. I'm the program specialist for the enhanced SECS program at Magruder High School.
When we were asked to come and present about anxiety, which is something we work with a lot in schools, but particularly in our program for the parent group and community, we asked our colleagues, and they wanted to acknowledge and thank them as well as they contributed to this presentation that we're here to give you tonight, and also wanted to provide information that is good for a parent to kind of understand and cope, because I know that we all as a community and a society have dealt with a rise of awareness, but also lots more anxiety being more prevalent. So,
Right. Well, there is more anxiety in society, and there's more anxiety in the schools. And as parents, of course, you want to know, at what point is this a problem, and what point is this normal, and what should I be looking for, and what can I do? And so we hope that we will touch on any of this, and then we'll be available in the breakout group if there's a specific question anybody has after we kind of go through the presentation.
okay, this isn't moving.
I think you have to aim it to the back because it's actually that one that controls it. But maybe not.
It's not moving at all. There we go.
Oh, never mind.
Excellent. All right.
So anxiety, is of course the experience of feeling nervous, worried, scared, afraid. It is exactly the opposite of being relaxed. And everybody, all children, all adults feel anxious at some time. Sometimes the anxiety is because of an event, like you drive home and a deer jumps out in front of you. Sometimes it is, a motivator and can get us things done. Most of us feel anxious if we have to give presentations or if we have to perform. If we're an athlete and we're about to run a race or play a game, we're going to have some anxiety, and it actually, in a positive way, enhances our performance. And so anxiety does have, as the slide says, physiological feelings, thoughts, behaviors. However, what we're going to focus on here is, of course, more the negative and when it becomes out of control. So there are physical symptoms, our heart rate increases. We sometimes have shallow breathing. We have muscle sweating. There's dizziness, there's headaches, there's stomach aches. The somatic complaints, though, come when, just to be clear, if there's a physical reason, that's not a somatic event, that's not anxiety. But I know I have a student that I love dearly who throws up when he gets too anxious. There's nothing wrong with him, but the anxiety gets so high that he actually just, throws up and he can't control it. And of course, headaches and, general aches and pains and things like that. Of course, one of the problems, though, that we really struggle with is the thoughts, because very often they're out of control and they're not proportional to the problems that they're dealing with. So anxious children spend a lot of time talking about what if, what if I fail this test? What if I don't get into this, the college? What if something happens to someone I care about? Things like that. And so those are things that happen. And of course, parents, very often the first time they have to deal with it is because the kids start avoiding. And avoidance, they don't want to go to school, they don't want to go to the game, they don't want to do things that they had previously been doing. And that is much more serious. And to reiterate, anxiety in of itself can be positive or can be negative. And so it's when it's out of control or out of proportion, or the kids can't handle it, then that becomes more of an issue.
Yeah. And just to say, how prevalent is anxiety today, provided you with some statistics, but wanted to highlight that anxiety is a continuum from mild to severe and happens in everyone's life. Anxiety is a lot more common and intense in some people's lives than others. And even when they face familiar situations, sometimes your reaction can be completely different. And to highlight that anxiety disorders were before and continue to be the most common mental illness in the United States. During the pandemic, upwards of nearly 40%, 15 to 39% of school age, like 16 to 17-year-old children demonstrated that they could meet criteria for an anxiety disorder. 1 in every 3 kids will experience anxiety sometime during this. The good thing is anxiety disorders are really highly treatable.
Yeah, we probably should have highlighted that, because anxiety, you hear about it all the time. And we do need to emphasize the fact that it is highly treatable. This is not the end of the world. It is highly treatable, and we should have highlighted that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
well, it's okay. And research showing that delaying or not providing treatment it puts you at higher risk to have poor performance. And then missing out on those experiences that we all want, those social engagements, and might have actually some negative things.
Well, sometimes if the kids don't get the treatment they need from parents or schools or families, they will try and treat themselves. And sometimes they start experimenting with substance abuse, trying to address and deal with what they're feeling, which is more than they can handle. And so it is not uncommon if asked why children are starting to smoke marijuana or to drink alcohol, and it's to calm their anxiety. That is not unheard of.
Next slide, please. Looking at anxiety versus an anxiety disorder, like we wanted to really highlight that anxiety is a normal part of childhood and a normal part of life. Really, all of us go through phases, and sometimes hormonal changes and different changes in your life can provide opportunities to feel anxiety more. Children with anxiety disorders experience fear and worry that persists and sometimes are resistant and to the help and efforts of others. When it's persistent, when it's disabling, when it interferes with daily activities or changes, it may rise to the level of an anxiety disorder.
Right. The next slide is just kind of a picture of a glass of water. And the story that goes with that is, a psychologist raises a glass of water and everyone in the room expects the usual, question. Optimism, pessimism, is the glass half empty or half full? But instead the psychologist poses the question, what do you think this weighs? And so people will be like, well, half a pound, I don't know. And her response is, the actual weight of the glass has no real significance. What does matter is how long I hold the glass. That, it will, if you hold it for a minute, it's not so heavy. And if you hold it for an hour, it'll eventually start cramping your arm. And if you hold it all day, it becomes debilitating and overwhelming, and your arm will go numb and you'll feel paralyzed. And in each case, the weight of the glass doesn't change. It's a question of how long you're holding on to it. And if you think of that in terms of anxiety, everyone does deal with anxiety, but do you deal with it or do you hold on to it to the point where it incapacitates you? And kind of knowing when and how and having the strategies to deal with and address whatever it is you're holding on to, and setting it down, getting rid of it, whatever, that's something that we have to do. And so, of course, the message is that everyone has things that they carry, things that they hold. You have to learn to deal with it and process it and then move on and cope with it.
Truthfully, anxiety is always generally not an independent condition. It co-occurs with depression, ADHD, learning disorders, autism spectrum disorder. More likely that you will have anxiety as well.
Right. And just because, you can go ahead and go to the next slide, just because someone says they have anxiety, well, what does that look like exactly? Like, can anyone tell if I'm anxious right here, right now? And the answer should be no, unless I either throw up, flu, or if I'm shaking, if I'm pacing, if I'm, distracted. What did you say? Oh, I don't remember. Or no, I don't want to go there. Or you curl up and you withdraw. And especially things that are typical and normal. And this is for parents, when you're looking at your kid, how do you know what they're doing? Because, and especially the little ones, especially our elementary age kids, they do not have the words. They don't have the self-awareness to accurately identify how they're feeling. And it's very common with some of our boys that we see more aggression and acting out, when in fact, that's the only way they know how to cope for how they're feeling. Okay, so anxiety, you can't see, but you can see characteristics of it. And so just be on the lookout. Sadly, all teenagers, check. So it's like, it does take kind of advanced, degrees of parenting to sort out, are you a normal teenager, which would be, or is there an issue? But so the next slide, please.
this is a very straightforward starting at looking at strategies. I mean, the first part is recognizing, look for those signs that, you know, you're having distress or anxiety. It could be avoidance, it could look a certain way. And just as we described before, those may not be typical or textbook signatures of anxiety. Work on moving forward and getting that student to relax, focus on the mind, what's going on and how to quiet it, but also looking at coping techniques and how to calm your body as well. And then in that portion, looking into changing it to something productive, giving yourself an activity or distraction that will help kind of move you forward, looking at how to manage that anxiety in the moment.
Right. And the next slide just kind of continues that thinking as well. All right. So we have to be careful when we say validate children's anxious feelings, because as parents, you know, one of the most important things is that kids trust you. They have to be able to trust you, that you're not going to dismiss what they say as, oh, it'll be fine. It's like, well, why are they so worried? And just ask them, not to say, oh, you're right, that's awful. You know, and so you have validating means basically hearing them, but not agreeing that you're right. This is like a crippling thing, you know, and sometimes that is difficult, because especially if the parent is nervous or upset.
And I think a good way to also validate is showing that you're a good anxiety problem solver as well. How do you respond to anxiety, or when you're going through life events that could cause anxiety? I gave an example. I was late for a train and I walked through, my daughter was with me and she was nervous about missing the train and being late. I said, I know we're feeling this way. We're going to get there. And if we don't make it, here's what we're going to do. So planning out and kind of walking through those moments when you can be a good role model for how to deal with, because it feels bad when you're late. How do you manage it and how do you handle it? And how do you kind of make your thinking go through? That can help validate that these things are common and how to figure they're workable.
Well, and your children look to you. You know, all children look to their parents. And if you're like, then guess what? That's what the kid thinks you're supposed to do. You know, and that's just normal behavior. But if it's not that you're supposed to be, oh, I'm so late, I'm so happy. No, you know, but you can say, okay, I hate being late, but being in an accident is going to take up way more time, you know, and then so you have to be a role model for your kids and how you manage anxiety, as you say.
And exploring the nature of the worry. Some things
Right.
are new. Is this something that we usually worry about? Is it something new? Is it something novel? Could that bring a rise to, are there other new things going on for the student socially that we might need to kind of look at a little bit deeper?
I think more important than the educate, like bullet point though, is the plan. As parents, your job is to give your kids strategies of like, okay, let's have a plan. What are you going to do? You know, being incapacitated and worried and frozen, that doesn't work. Okay, so what do you do if you do meet, you have a new teacher, what's something you can do? Or if you know something is going to be new that's coming up that's bothering them or worried about, give them some strategies and help them plan how they're going to handle it before it happens, and give them some tools, basically. And the next page, the next few slides are, you know, we don't want to read these to you, but we do want to definitely highlight these. These are specifically for parents to be aware of when you're dealing with kids with anxiety. The number one thing is something that is so incredibly difficult for parents, and that is avoidance leads to further avoidance. And I say that because no parent likes to see their kid uncomfortable. If you have a child that is crying, if you have a child that's shaking, if you have a child that is clearly in distress, every parent in the world wants to make them feel better. The problem is that if you say, you're right, you're so upset, you shouldn't go to school, you shouldn't face your fear, you shouldn't, you know, you should run away and hide from it. That avoidance gets worse.
A lot of times the anxiety has to go up before it can be released or come down. And even getting a successive step, maybe not doing the whole thing, but even approximate or a part of it can really lessen the pile up effect as anxiety can build on itself without avoidance.
Absolutely. So I work, of course, as part of my program, we have a full-time licensed clinical social worker, and she speaks all the time with the kids directly and the parents about comfortable discomfort, where you have to kind of endure some discomfort. You know it's coming, you're going to endure it, but guess what? It gets better. And she uses the analogy of getting in a cold pool. No one likes it. but you know, and especially once you've been in it and you get used to it, you can handle it. You know, and then you've done it before, you're going to do it again. It's okay. And if it gets you where you need to go, then you sometimes have to put up with what you don't like, because no one in the world, I'm sure, tells their children, oh, you're only going to like everything in the whole wide world. Like, hello, this is life, right? But kids make it bigger in their minds. They avoid it. It's cold, it's cold, it's cold, it's cold. You have to help them. And not to say you throw them in for 2 hours. If they go in, it's like, okay, you're going to go in for 5 minutes and then you can come out again. You can handle 5 minutes. And then once they've done it, it's easier to build on that. So in the slide before, but I do definitely want to emphasize this. And then of course, yeah, the avoidance leads to further avoidance. And the short term versus the long term, and then the tolerating anxiety. So all these things definitely go together. On the next page, sorry, when they talk about never surprise them, there are some parents who think that just like, who's surprised where you show up at a scary place and you'll be okay, and kind of force them into it. This really backfires in a couple of ways. Kids have to trust their parents. They have to trust that you're going to help them be safe, not to avoid things, but that you're going to give them strategies. They don't like surprises. And you have to kind of follow through. All parents, this is not you, all parents have to follow through with what they promise, the good and the bad. If you go to the dentist, you get McDonald's, whatever. But if you don't do this, this will happen. It has to happen because they have to trust you. Like that just kind of goes along with it. And especially when coming up with a plan of how long they can tolerate things that are hard for them or difficult.
And I think this is where the what if scenarios can come into play when you're planning to do something that is uncomfortable or difficult. And I think you can ask them in an open-ended way, so what do you think we should do if that happens? And get them a part of that planning practice, practicing and planning for their uncomfortable situation that they're facing.
Absolutely. The avoiding cheerleading, it's sometimes easier to say, do what you can. Instead of, you can do it, you'll get an A. Well, then what happens if they don't? You know, as opposed to do what you can, and then we'll do it again. And then tomorrow's another day. We'll see where we're at then. It's more open-ended and you're supporting them as they're working through it. But of course, as always, we probably should put this in red. We cannot ever minimize risk statements. Anytime a child says that they are concerned about self-harm, suicide, life would be better without me, things like that, that is very serious. And you never, oh, you don't mean it.
Always be taken seriously.
Always be taken seriously. Next slide.
Looking at ways to support your child at home, and I think we've covered some of these, but always remember, just because you're saying, I understand how you feel, doesn't mean that you have to be in agreement with them.
Correct.
Also remind them of their strengths and their competencies. When did you do this before? Remember that challenges. Sometimes even in here, we talk about times when they were upset, and can you even remember or recall what you were upset about? Because in a week, it feels really strong now, but that won't necessarily be something that you remember, or that won't matter. Definitely those open-ended questions. When you're kind of working in problem solving with a kid, just talking about, what do you think should happen? Or what is your biggest concern? Giving them the space to kind of put words to it and manage those feelings empowers them to know that they're valued in the problem solving.
And of course, the last one, we're the adults, they're the kids. They really believe in that moment that, the boyfriend, the girlfriend broke up with them, they failed the test, they didn't make the team. That is the end all be all, because in their world it is. As parents, we have to help them find some perspective. How bad is it? Like, really, how bad is it? And they can't do it on their own. If they could, they wouldn't be that upset. And so you don't want to minimize it, because it is important to them. Like, this is their reality. This is the only time they've ever had their heart broken, but it's like, you're there for them. They're not alone. They're going to get through it. And, I do hope no parent says that teenagers, that's the happiest days of their life. Like, I hope no one ever says that to a child. I mean, I hope not, because life gets better. It gets so much better. You just have to sometimes go through some rainy days in order to get the sun. But our young kids, and especially the little ones, if to use the weather analogy, a lot of times if it's raining and cloudy and horrible outside, they don't remember when it was last sunny. We're all alive long enough to know that the sun's going to show again. I know there's a hurricane, it's bad, but you know what? The sun will shine again. But kids that haven't lived long enough, they either don't remember or can't believe it's raining now and that's their only reality. And sometimes we just have to hold on to them until the sun shines again because they can't put it in perspective at all.
Next slide. Obviously, we mentioned this
Yeah.
before, but it's definitely reciprocal and can be traced back and forth. How you deal with anxiety, how you show them, how you face those challenges really will determine and help support how the kids deal with anxiety as well.
Well, and it's very difficult because we love our kids. And when our kids are upset, then we're upset. We all know this. On the other hand, when we're upset, they're upset. And now we're all going to be upset, you know, and it's like, hello, somebody at some point has to not be upset anymore, you know, and so, and it falls to the adults because the kids need help with that. And especially the little ones and the teenagers. Next slide. Yeah, so sorry. I guess this was more repetitive than I realized. I'm sorry. I apologize. Each slide seemed so good when we did it, but then we're like, oh, we just said that. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, checking in with yourself, doing that assessment, and obviously, you know, the continuum of childhood, these questions, you know, there's more capacity at sometimes than others, especially, you know, as we go through puberty, the teenage years, there's different times that, you know, students may and children may be able to handle anxiety and stress differently. And those are just some helpful questions to kind of help you move forward as you're working in
Well,
a
it's
relationship.
really hard because we're all parents and no one loves our children more than we do. And the whole mama bear thing is for a good reason.
Mhm.
I had a girlfriend who shall remain nameless, whose daughter got dumped by a boyfriend and she got in the car and drove to that boy's house. And I'm like, okay, chill, time out. Like he didn't do anything bad. Like it's okay. She didn't do anything to him. But you know what? You hurt my child. Take a contract out. My child's crying because of, you know, I mean, hello, we all know that, but we have to be aware of what are we doing to contribute to the problem and so just as parents admit, all right, I'm a mama bear. How dare someone hurt my child? But let's put this in perspective now. We can't, you know, protect our child from everything.
And there's obviously different supports to consider.
Yes.
And you don't always have to be that person to help coach the anxiety in your child's life. There's other supportive adults, other people in the family, trusted aunt, you know, older sibling that might help and help to lend to that voice. But definitely, you know, looking at your own mindfulness, how you incorporate that in your own life. You know, obviously, support groups and different. I do think that one of the most effective, although probably not always easy to access, is the physical activity. If you are a person who loves the gym and who loves getting out there, you probably already know that, but that exercise is one of the highest correlating factors in helping people and children deal with anxiety, even when they don't particularly enjoy it.
Well, and you don't have to join a gym, go for a walk. You know, we have the recreation person going. Yeah. Well, it's just getting outside and being, and it's true. The research shows very clearly that being part of nature and being just the more in touch as possible with just nature and change, and the leaves are blooming and the grass grows and then other things happen and the leaves change. And sometimes it's cold, sometimes it's hot, gets us out of our own heads. And some of our kids really struggle. And we haven't gotten into it. I'm probably jumping ahead, but the role of technology and how easy technology makes it for kids to stay in their own heads, in a little bubble in their own heads, is not generally helpful.
Yeah. And the balance between distraction and numbing ourselves it can be hard sometimes. So, you know, it is good to take a break and set your mind differently, and just kind of monitoring that too, checking in how you feel.
All right, so the next slide. Oh, thank you. So you are not alone. You know, this is MCPS. Parents and MCPS do work very closely together. This is kind of in order of like, who would be your, if you're worried for any reason, of course, reach out to the teacher, followed by the school counselor. If there's a case manager involved, the school social worker, the school psychologist, the pupil personnel worker. Obviously, a building administrator would probably not be your first go-to if you were looking for help, but they can help. So, and of course, special education supervisor, you know, like there are resources available, there are places to go, there are people that know the answers. And so you are not alone as a parent. And if you're worried, you know, the more people that know about the concerns, the more eyes on the child, the better for everybody.
Yeah, and it's good to just even say, have you noticed? I mean, it doesn't have to be a concern that high. It could just be like, I'm wondering, and this is what I see. And then they can help you kind of see what that looks like at school. Because, you know, I know that they're sometimes different when different adults are watching them.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Good.
fine. Wanted to leave you with this.
I know, yes, exactly. So of course, the best use of creativity is imagination, and the worst use of creativity is anxiety. And it is true. There is actually also a correlation with anxiety and intelligence. The brighter the kid, the more they see, the more they're aware, the more their mind spirals out of control very often. Not always, but there is kind of a correlation that anyone can suffer from anxiety, but some of our brighter kids amp it up, and you know, just more possibilities are available. You know, that, well, what about this? What about this? You know, an average kid will think of 10. Some of our brighter kids think of 35.
Yeah.
Like, really, I didn't know that many bad things could happen. You know, so it's like, it is, but it, as just to go back and to reiterate, it is of course one of the most treatable. And so there is help available, and the school system is more than happy to work with parents, and it does take a village and everyone kind of communicating. The next few slides, and so Mr. Lynch, you're going to be sending this out, right? So everyone will get all of these links, because I know they're hyperlinks, and that way, once you get this sent out to you, just kind of go to the slide, and then there's several pages of resources if you're worried, and some of them are very down-to-earth tips, and of course, some of them are age appropriate. So I was hesitant because we're like, well, this is elementary. I work with high school kids and their parents, and so I wanted to make sure to respect that the little ones, it looks different.
For sure. And we've also included our contact information
Absolutely.
at the end for any questions
Mhm.
that you may have.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So, yeah, so there's a couple more pages of resources and right.
Resources. Yeah.
So I understand there's going to be a breakout rooms.
If you guys stay there,
Yes.
what I'll do is I'm going to take the mic and I will ask a couple of questions, and so I'll ask the question and then I'll give you the mic back. So we'll just do some general questions. For those of you who are familiar with our format, you know that we ask our presenters to go into a breakout room where you can have more of a dialogue with them, but I'm just going to click on the chat to see if there are any general questions for our presenters, and then we can jump into our breakout sessions. We also will have a breakout room where I will be present if anybody would like to speak with me. I think what we'll do to make it so that we're not stepping on top of each other presenters, if you want to take your laptop and go to that side, but stay there now, because we'll do some see if they're general questions. And then the co-chairs will also be in a breakout room where if you'd like to speak to the co-chairs, they'll be happy to answer questions about our earlier presentation, about the nomination process, or any other information you want to share with them. So one question here says, are all school counselors trained on supporting students with anxiety, and is this required competency for school counselors?
I would say that school counselors are dealing with it more and more and more and more and more. And so they're getting better at it. However, it's not, unless I'm mistaken, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. It's not one of the things that they are specifically trained in. The school social workers, which are now in all the schools, yes, school social workers are trained in handling and addressing anxiety. That being said, there's a lot of counselors that, because of experience and because we're seeing so much of it, some of them are really very, very good, but all of the school social workers Most definitely. And if if a student is brought to a counselor with a concern, they will know to refer to whoever is an expert. So if you go to the school counselor, if that's not their area of expertise or they're not sure, they certainly know who in the building is.
All right, here we have another one for you, and it's also about MCPS staff. So are MCPS staff getting trained on how to recognize the other characteristics of anxiety and how to help students rather than give disciplinary consequences? We found this book to be helpful on what to do when you worry too much, a kid's guide to overcoming anxiety, what to do guides for kids series, and the information there is in the chat in terms of the author, Dawn Hubner, and Bonnie Matthews is the illustrator. So thank you for that resource. And if you would want to touch on any training or awareness that you have of professional development for staff.
So working with restorative practices, I think that's really helpful when we're looking at those discipline issues. And when I work with teams, for sure, you know, we always try when we see repeated patterns to kind of bring out that lens. You know, anxiety at times can look like aggression. And so kind of asking those questions, you know, what if I looked at this as a mental health issue? And how would that appear? So I do think that the mindfulness components that have been more woven throughout have talked more about the surface level anxiety and how students can, you know, kind of put down that glass of water and like not make it so heavy throughout the day, and recognizing those coping skills. So I think that the levels of understanding and the communication about that mindfulness has really helped promote a general level of concern and thinking through what students might be experiencing and how anxiety can look different.
It's not so much professional development, but one thing that we that is new in MCPS is the addition of social workers at our secondary schools and the creation of what we call well-being teams. So well-being teams are a group of professionals, including the social worker, school psychologist, the restorative practices specialist or restorative coach specialist. There's a representative in the school, but there's also a central office person who works with a group of schools. So we have a group of them that come out of central office and work with schools in a certain area. And they make up members of the well-being team. And what they do is they review data that would be an indicator around students who are struggling with a multitude of different issues, whether it be attendance, grades, but also mental health and anxiety issues are part of that. So if a student is not attending school, it may be because of anxiety issues that have led to school refusal. So that is not necessarily a specific form of professional development, but it is a response that MCPS has put in place to help address a multitude of issues, but including mental health and well-being. So, all right. With that said, what we want to do now is move into our breakout rooms. If you guys want to maybe head over there, folks that are in the room here in person, you can choose to either, if you want to go sit with our presenters over there and have a conversation with them and the others that are online, you can do that. If you'd like to talk to me, I'm going to be on this computer here, so you can come. Maybe Sarah can help me slide this table up a little closer. You can come sit with me up here. Or if you'd like to access our co-chairs. Amy, I don't know if you can put up the co-chair group. Yeah, on the laptop, if you want to go into that breakout. Okay. I have a power cord for you if you need that. So you're welcome to decide where you want to go. The co-chairs? Well, yeah. Does anybody in here want to speak with the co-chairs? Okay, then why don't you go over there and let's try to create as much distance. Although you're okay there, I think, and I'll jump in this conversation over here with anybody who wants to be on there. We'll see how it works and we'll go from there. Okay. All right. So I also want to thank the MCPS employees who showed up this evening to support this effort. Mary Beth, I saw, I know Sarah Kayo is here. I saw Amy Shorb on the screen. I hope I didn't miss anybody. I know my partner Amy is here. Again, thanks to Derek for helping us pull off this hybrid experience. I hope it went fairly smoothly for you. And of course, a big thank you to our interpreter, Mr. Mejia. So wonderful to see everybody. And we are right at about 9 o'clock. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. And we look forward to seeing you guys in May. And fill out that form if you're interested. We want to hear from you. Okay, take care, guys.